I found this on Facebook. Okay, someone I know posted this today. And this is, what is jihad? The word jihad does not translate to holy war, but originates with the root jahada, which means to strive or struggle. So I want to discuss some of the typical, shall we say, propaganda that is pushed. Now, I did state that jihad, that Islam is divided into two obligations: fard ayn, personal obligation, and fard kifaya, communal obligation. We will get into that in a little bit more detail in a minute. Jihad is fard kifaya, a communal obligation. It must always be pursued by a small minority. Okay, so this is strive or struggle. Okay, there's talk of the lesser jihad and the greater jihad. Okay, the lesser or combative jihad is the act of fighting in defense for freedom of religion and basic human rights, while the greater or spiritual jihad is striving against one's ego and lower desires. So this is a fairly common meme. This is a fairly common definition that is passed around. Let us have a look. So I went to these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So these are definitions taken from 7 different lexicons, Arabic, English lexicons. So I want to go through that now. So notice here, jihad, war against the infidels, war. Okay, that differs already from this first definition. Let's have a look at another one. War against unbelievers and the like. Let's take a look at another lexicon. To wage holy war against the infidels. Let's look at another one. Holy war against the infidels as a religious duty from a military point of view. To wage a holy war against unbelievers. Going forth to fight in the holy war. Strove, fought against, waged war against. Holy war, jihad. Does that make that clear? These are sourced from some of the most authoritative English Arabic lexicons. And it seems that the authors who wrote these lexicons and distribute them around the world didn't get the memo. That jihad is.
You want to exit full screen if you're done there?
Okay, I'll stop there for a moment, yeah.
Now, what I want to do here is show the Oxford English Dictionary here on screen, jihad, just so people can see this. A religious war of Muslims against unbelievers in Islam, inculcated as a duty by the Quran and traditions, okay? And a war or crusade for or against some doctrine, opinion, or principle, war to the death. And that is from the Oxford English Dictionary, the largest, most authoritative English dictionary in the world.
Right, and I used 7 different lexicons there. I can provide the link. I can provide a link to online lexicons. We can add this to the Facebook show afterwards. I can offer that link. Remind me, I will post it. You can read those definitions for yourself. 7 different authoritative Arabic English lexicons that didn't get the memo that jihad just means to strive or struggle. In other words, go to the gym, eat less McDonald's, and, you know, be a better person. Jihad has a very specific meaning. Yes, in the dictionary, it means to struggle. In the Sharia, and I'll get to that, it has a completely different meaning, which we've just elucidated. Okay, so let me go on then. So I will go. Can I share my screen again?
Yep.
Because I need to provide numerous different references. Again, people can check these for themselves. Okay. Okay, so there are 4 schools of jurisprudence, of Sunni jurisprudence. Okay. Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi, and Hanbali. So all of them teach that jihad is extreme and strenuous warfare in the path of Allah. Okay, call to the true religion and war to whoever refuses to accept it. Jihad is when a Muslim fights an infidel, fiercely fighting infidels or fighting infidels. Okay, so that Allah's word reigns supreme. Let's go down. Let us look at, make a note, war is deceit. Very often I will see comments about, from Mossad, you know, by way of deceit, you will wage war. Well, Muhammad said the very same thing, and long before Mossad said it. Okay, that is the reference, Bukhari 52-269, in the book called Fighting for the Cause of Allah, Jihad, Hadith 269, volume 4. Okay, so notice, so I want to talk about jihad. I want to show you all of the references. Now, again, Lars mentioned the pledges of Aqaba. Lars did mention that. He said that, look at the first, now he spoke of the second pledge and then quoted the first pledge. Now, this is the life of Muhammad, the Sirah. This is his official Islamic biography, page 208. When Allah gave permission to fight to his apostle at the second oath of allegiance at Aqaba, it contained conditions involving war, which were not in the first act of fealty. Muhammad's followers bound themselves to wage war against all and sundry for Allah and his apostle. He promised them for faithful service the reward of paradise. Make a note of that. That comes straight out of, these words can never be changed. This is what it is. The second pledge is about war against all and sundry. Now, Tafsir Jalalain, one of the authoritative tafsirs, notice this: do the people of the towns, the deniers, feel secure from the coming of our might, our chastisement upon them at night while they are sleeping, unaware of it? Other quotes: if non-Muslims submit to conversion or subjugation, this call, dawah, can be pursued peacefully. If they do not, Muslims are obliged to wage war against them. In Islam, peace requires that non-Muslims submit to the call of Islam, either by converting, by accepting the status of a religious minority, a dhimmi. A dhimmi is actually a semi-slave, and paying the imposed poll tax. It is actually tribute, called jizya. World peace, the final stage of the dawah, is reached only with the conversion or submission of all of mankind to Islam. That is Islamic peace, when the entire world. This is Bassam Tibi, War and Peace in Islam, 1998. That's page 130. So now let me go through. This is from the Reliance of the Traveler. I will quote a different Sharia manual later, a Hanafi Sharia manual, which says precisely the same thing. Fighting for the cause of Allah, Jihad, chapter 9. Jihad means to wage war against non-Muslims and is derived from the word mujahada, signifying warfare to establish the religion. The scriptural basis, and I'll get to the lesser and greater jihad, the scriptural basis is taken from Quranic verses such as fighting is prescribed for you. Slay them wherever you find them. Fight the idolaters utterly. Those are Quran 2:216, 4:89, and 9:36. And such hadiths as the one related by Bukhari and Muslim that says, I've been commanded to fight the people until they testify that there's no God but Allah and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. It says here in the Sharia that jihad is obligatory. Jihad is a communal obligation defined in C 3.2. When enough people perform it, it is no longer obligatory upon others. C 32. This is a second distinction between obligatory acts is made on the basis of who is called to perform them, namely whether an act is personally or communally obligatory. So a communally obligatory act is what the lawgiver requires from the collective, not from each of them, such that if someone undertakes it, then the obligation has been fulfilled and the responsibility of non-performance is lifted from the rest. Now, for this, I need to go to a different reference. I'm going to use a different Sharia manual. Just need to move this because I really need to drive this point home. Now, these words are taken. So the Muslim Brotherhood is an organization that has at least 100 million members. Their main imam has a weekly show. He gets 60 million members that tune in every week. I know you'd love to have those numbers, Jan. So the author of the Majma al-Anar fi Shar Muntak al-Abar, in describing, so this is Hassan al-Banna of the Muslim Brotherhood. Now, something that I hear constantly is, what about the KKK? First of all, the KKK is irrelevant. They have less than 6,000 members in a country with 350 million people. This man, his organization has at least 60 million people listening to what they say every week. 6,000, less than 6,000 members. The Women's National Basketball Association has more members than the KKK has. They're irrelevant. They don't hold territory. They don't run the government. They are utterly, they're ridiculous, right? No one takes them seriously. So it says, in describing the rules of jihad according to the Hanafi school, he said, jihad linguistically, dictionary definition, means to exert one's utmost effort in word and action. In the Sharia, it is the fighting of the unbelievers. In the Sharia, it is the fighting. All possible efforts are necessary to dismantle the power of the enemies of Islam, including beating them, plundering their wealth, destroying their places of worship, and smashing their idols. This is ISIS. This is what they did. So this means that jihad is to strive to the utmost to ensure the strength of Islam by fighting those who fight you and the dhimmis. Okay, it is fard, obligatory to fight with the enemies. So we, as people who do not accept Allah and Muhammad, we are the enemies of Islam. The Imam must send a military expedition to the Dar al-Harb, that's the house of war, every year, at least once or twice, and the people must support him in this. And now we're going to talk about those packs of lone wolves that have been plaguing the West. If some of the people fulfill the obligation, the remainder are released from the obligation. If this fard kifaya, communal obligation, cannot be fulfilled by that group, then responsibility lies with the closest adjacent group, and then the closest after that. And if the fard kifaya cannot be fulfilled except by all the people, then it becomes fard ain, an individual obligation. Those are our packs of lone wolves committing jihad. If the enemy conquers any territory of Islam or any regions of it, it becomes fard ain. Okay, and the woman and the slave shall go forth without the permission of the husband or master. In the same way, the child shall go forth without the permission of the parents. This is formally how jihad is defined. I will go back up here. So, any questions so far? I need to go to one or two more references.
No, I'm just
any questions?
I'm just following along. I don't see any questions from the audience here yet either.
Okay, so let me go back up to the top. I need to find. So let's have a look. What are the objectives of jihad? This is from the Reliance of the Traveler. So we just looked at the Hanafi manual. Now we're looking at the Shafi Sharia manual. The Caliph makes war upon Jews, Christians, and Zoroastrians, provided he has first invited them to enter Islam in faith and practice.
Highlight those just to help the audience see it. Yeah, there you go.
Let me just... The Caliph makes war upon Jews, Christians, and Zoroastrians. In other words, they ask you to become Muslim, and if you say no, then they make war on you. Fight those who do not believe in Allah on the last day, and who forbid not what Allah and His Messenger have forbidden, who do not practice the religion of truth. It says here, just fight them because they don't practice Islam. The poll tax is tribute. Okay? So those are some of the references that I needed to mention. Okay, now I will need to find another reference. So let us go back to the Hanafi manual. Okay, these are some of this is what was quoted by Hassan al-Banna. Many Muslims today mistakenly believe that fighting the enemy is jihad asghar, a lesser jihad, and that fighting one's ego is jihad akbar, a greater jihad. And what he tells us is the following is quoted as proof. We have returned from the lesser jihad to embark on the greater jihad. Okay? And it says the greater jihad is the one against one's ego. Now, the greater jihad is overcoming your inhibition to kill. The lesser jihad is going out to kill. So the narration is used by some to lessen the importance of fighting. Okay? But this narration is not a Sahih tradition or sound tradition. It is a weak tradition. Okay? Al-Bayhaqi transmitted it with a weak chain of narrators. So it is not a sound tradition. It cannot stand on its own. There is no supporting evidence for it. It's supported to soften the message to the masses. It says, well, actually, no, but this statement cannot stand on its own because it is a weak hadith. It is a weak chain of narration. It is unable to stand on its own. Then there's one more thing. So I'll move over because I really want to demonstrate now. If you go to the hadith collections, these are the major hadith collections. Bukhari, okay? Bukhari wrote us a hadith collection, military expeditions led by the Prophet, okay? Let's have a look here. This is Muslim, the second most authoritative. This is sunnah.com. You can find this yourself, okay? The Book of Jihad and Expeditions.
And again, if the Islamic sources are wrong, blame them. Don't attack
then Islam
Lloyd
is wrong.
For quoting them.
And all of this is about warfare. None of it is about eating more salads, going to the gym, or being nicer to people. Not one. Okay?
Eating more salads.
Okay? Again, we have your jihad. Okay? All of these, and you can go through these, are about warfare. All of these are about fighting. And of course, we have Sunan Abu Dawud as well. So the four of the major collections, hadith collections, are Kitab al-Jihad, is all about jihad. Jihad, if you read through these, you will find that it is about fighting. And I quoted the Sharia showing that jihad is very much about fighting. So I have to ask if, is that definition that I put up on screen earlier, is this correct?
Obviously not. No. I mean, that's definitely a simplified, watered down version for, people to absorb in other countries who haven't read these texts. And when you bring them up, they'll attack you for it. That seems to be the main force behind that jihad.
Correct. Also, notice in Islam, there is a distinction. Not equal of those believers who sit at home and receive no hurt. Okay, to those who strive and fight in the cause of Allah with their goods and their persons. Allah hath granted a higher grade to those who strive and fight. Okay, now also we need to know about verse 9:5 in these verse. Okay, chapter 9, is the last full chapter of the Quran. It is called a Tawbah, which means the ultimatum. And 9:5, and in fact, chapter 9 is the most violent chapter of the Quran. When the sacred months have passed, slay the idolaters wherever you find them, take them captive and besiege them. Okay, I've been commanded to fight the people. Okay, and notice now, this is from the Tafsir Ibn Kathir. The ayah 9:5 was called the ayah of the sword. It abrogated every agreement of peace between the Prophet and any idolater, every treaty and every term. Ibn Abbas, who was the most famous of the Tafsir commenters, said, no idolater had any more treaty or promise of safety ever since the surah was revealed.
Now, go back to 9:5 there. That's the whole quote there? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so between the Prophet and any idolater. Now, mine says, but when the forbidden months are past, then fight and slay the pagans wherever ye find them.
Agreed. These will differ from Quran to Quran. For instance, now there are translations that are, shall we say, softened in their meanings. For instance, when we talk about deception within Islam, right? They will talk about you'll say, they plotted or they planned or they schemed, and Allah schemed, and Allah is the best of schemers, the best of planners, the best of plotters. But when you go to the Arabic, just take the Arabic, paste it into Google, 90% of the time it works great. That word, without going into specific detail right now, is makara or makr. Okay, Allah is a makara. He uses makr, deception. When you go to Lane's lexicon, for instance, and when you go to Lane's lexicon and you actually look at this word, it is deception. There's no doubt. It's not ambiguous. It is deception. It is to lie. And I'll go through the details. I have some notes prepared for that. Here's a list of some resources you might find useful. Okay, QuranIndex.net, QuranX.com, very, very useful website. Here is an Arabic English lexicon you can go to. I've had Jihad preloaded here. Okay. And while that's loading, and then of course we can word search in the Quran. So this Quran.com. So these are some very useful resources. This brings up all of these lexicons. Okay. And you can find strived, fought, waged war against. Okay. So you can go through, and there's a whole list of these in Arabic as well. So sometimes the words have been altered in the English translations to make them a little more palatable to the West, or to people reading them so it doesn't seem as violent. Verse 9:5, a couple things. So we have slay the idolaters wherever you find them. Okay. Then we have 9:6. Okay. Those who don't submit will be killed. Okay. Don't make treaties with non-Muslims. Treat converts to Islam, but kill those who refuse to convert. Okay. 9:12, fight the disbeliever. Allah's on your side. 9:23, don't make friends with your disbelieving family members. Okay. These are things you can look for. You can read that chapter for yourself.
Wow, that's entirely different than the Bible. The Bible says if your wife is a non-believer, your belief can, I forget the quote exactly, but your belief can help her through or whatever. And good grief.
Right,
all right.
Correct. So So there are some significant. So there's some okay on 930. Fighting the Jews and Christians is legislated. This is Tafsir Ibn Kathir on verse 930. Okay, fighting the Jews and Christians is legislated because they are idolaters and disbelievers. We are considered idolaters. We worship the cross. We worship idols of Jesus, for argument's sake. They see that as idolatry, right? Don't forget they have. So Allah the Exalted encourages the believers to fight the polytheists. We worship Jesus, God, and Mary, according to what's in the Quran.
Yeah, so they say the Trinity makes it,
Jesus, God, and Mary.
polytheism.